If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader. And today I have the privilege to host such distinguished leaders who might be here to inspire many more future leaders. Good evening to one and all. On behalf of our entire Postgraduate Council team, I would like to welcome you all to day one of Opportunities Australia Mentorship Conclave, proudly brought to you by UNSW Postgraduate Council, ARC UNSW, and Opportunities Australia. I'm your host, Saurabh Kaura, and I'm a coursework officer on the Postgraduate Council. The Postgraduate Council is a student body that represents, supports, and advocates for all postgraduate students. If you have any questions or concerns, please do reach out to us. Before we begin with this mega event, I would like to start the event by acknowledging and paying my respects to the Bidjigal and Gadigal peoples, the traditional custodians of the lands where each of our UNSW campuses are located, and all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders, past, present, and emerging, and their communities who have shared and practiced their teachings over thousands of years. We recognize the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders peoples' ongoing contributions towards business, education, and industry. It's an absolute pleasure to be hosting this mega event. Also joining me today as a co-host will be Shruthi, who is also a part of our PGC team, as well as a postgraduate student at UNSW.
Thanks for the great start for the event, Saurabh. Hello, everyone. This is Shruthi. I'm a counselor at UNSW PGC, co-hosting today with Saurabh Kaura. It's an absolute honor for me to have such great speakers as well as such amazing guests joining us today, and of course, our lovely audience. For this event, the Postgraduate Council has collaborated with Opportunities Australia and ARC UNSW, which excites me even more as the trio combination has been truly amazing in making this event happen. So without any delay, I would now like to kick off this event now. Ladies and gentlemen, this conclave will have 8 reputed speakers speaking across 2 days. For the first day, we will have 4 speakers, and tomorrow, that is the second day, we will have 4 more speakers joining us. I would now like to give a quick heads up on the housekeeping for this event. This session will be recorded. So if you are uncomfortable having your video on while the session is recording, please feel free to turn off your camera. And also, I request you to please keep yourself on mute while our speakers are presenting. And the Q&A session will be towards the end of the session, and it will be for about 20 minutes. You are more than welcome to switch on your camera as well as unmute yourself and ask your question, or also pop it in the chat box for me or Saurabh to read it out for our guests. But before I hand over to Saurabh to introduce our first speaker, I would now like to thank Mr. Kumar Arja, who's the CEO of Opportunities Australia, for collaborating with UNSW PGC for making this mega event happen. Thanks, Kumar. Can I also invite you to speak a few words before we get the event started?
Sure. Thank you very much, Shruthi. It's an honor to host this event. I studied at UNSW, so it's it creates a great feeling. This is the first event we are organizing for UNSW. Just a bit of background about Opportunities Australia. Education is the key, as you know, and we would like to spread it. We have great talented people, as you can see, 8 talented speakers tonight as well as tomorrow night. And we have created a team of over 60 great volunteers. Everyone is a university graduate. A lot of them, they work at corporates, high-level jobs, VPs, etc. And we are all very keen to spread the information, spread the knowledge. Besides helping out the students, we are also helping out the refugees, migrants, and indigenous people. And we would like to help out as many Australians as possible. It will be our first year on 1st of July, so can't wait to celebrate that. And what a great way to, reach our first year mile, to host an event for UNSW. So yeah, it's a pleasure to introduce you all to the great speakers. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kumar, for that wonderful introduction. I'm quite sure that our audience out here is already quite excited to listen to all the speakers. Just want to let you all know that we would be having 4 speakers presenting today, and the rest 4 will be presenting tomorrow. Also, to save on our time, we will be keeping the Q&A at the end of the session, where students get an opportunity to ask any questions to the speakers. So taking no more time, I want to introduce the first speaker for today, Mr. Muthindra Gunasekara. Mr. Muthindra completed his Bachelor of Business in Computing and Information Systems from Western Sydney University back in 2003. He then started working as a business analyst at Crossmark Australia in 2003 and later joined Woolworths in 2006. Initially, he worked in different roles such as a business analyst, project manager, senior project manager, and then a program manager at Woolworths for around 10 years. And since 2006, Mr. Muthindra has been working as a head of technology, customer service at Woolies X. It's my absolute pleasure to welcome you as the first presenter for this great evening, Muthindra. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Saurabh. Hey, folks. So as the introduction goes, my name is Muthindra. So I'll actually give you a little bit of background on myself and some of the life experience that I've had in the last 18 years, studying in Australia and also, starting my career in Australia. So a bit about myself. I'm a father to 3 gorgeous girls, 16, 13, and 11. So if you are interested in learning about, how I manage 3, nearly 2 teenage kids and a kid who is just about to become a teenager, very, very happy to share that knowledge as well. I'm an avid sport fan. I do play a bit of cricket, but not very good, I might add. I love family, the pets. First generation migrant to Australia from Sri Lanka. 18 years in technology, and also, as per the introduction, I've studied at University of Western Sydney, and then also did a postgraduate at Sydney Graduate School of Management. So, as a person, what are the key things that I normally follow as a person? Whether it be professional, circle or in life in general. I love collaboration. Working with people. How do we collaborate genuinely to get a win-win solution? Trust is a key. Whether it's your, life partner, your kids, your, colleagues, regardless of who you interact with, trust I think is absolutely critical in any relationship. Growth mindset, feedback is gold. So when people give you feedback, I always think that is, really valuable. So I always, take these little gold nuggets and then try to learn from my mistakes or listen to their feedback and mold my life according to that. The other part is never stop learning. So I love learning, whether it be about sports. My latest craze is Formula 1 cars, so I'm learning about that. Whether it be leadership, management, technology, anything. Always looking forward to learning something new, and always be humble. Because at the end of the day, a job title, money, that is temporary. If you become humble and you interact with individuals and if you work with people, it gives you a really good grounding. And if you're especially a leader, to become a leader, you need to have followers. So to do that, you've got to be humble and be authentic. You don't have to be like somebody. You be yourself, and success will follow. And last but not least, empathy is very important, because sometimes people get very, very upset about different things. But if you understand from the other person's perspective, life becomes a lot simpler. Next slide, please. All right, so my journey. So the key part is there is no silver bullet to life journeys. Everyone's life is going to be different, and the journey is going to be interesting. So this is my journey, and this is what I've learned. throughout my career and growing up, migrating as a young adult to Australia. So the first thing is, you got to, when you finish your studies or when you're looking for a job, you got to start somewhere. Sometimes people say, look, I'm a graduate in economics, finance, technology, or any other discipline that you studied at university. The best thing to do is, if you're looking for a job, start somewhere. Like, most of the time, getting into the workforce and starting somewhere is the key. And once you're there, you can prove yourself and you can progress yourself within the organization. The other part is, especially if you're starting on your career, you got to try a few things before you figure out what you like. So for myself, I started as a junior analyst with Crossmark Australia. I did a lot of different things, and then I became a lot more technical in the sense that I started becoming a reports writer in business objects. And then I tried system analysis, business analysis, project management, program management, and then I do what I do. What I found was, when I was a business analyst, that I realized, look, I enjoy this, but I like project management a lot more. So then I moved across to project management, and I built my career on that. So it's always important that, regardless of which field you're working in, getting in there and trying it firsthand, so that way you understand what are your skill sets and also what you like doing. Once you start doing something that you love, it's actually not a job. It becomes part of your life. The other thing I would say is, try your best. You can only do your best, right? If you try to be the best version of yourself, success will follow. I mean, a lot of people talk about, like, how do you become successful? What do you have to do? There is actually not a real secret behind it. Whatever you do, if you follow your passion and if you do it to the best of your ability, the good things will happen to you. Find your strengths and work on them. A lot of other people, like, when I'm actually talking to some of my colleagues or people in general, they always say, look, I'm not very good at this. My advice to people would be, find out what your strengths are and work on them. Once you understand your strengths, sometimes people say, there are certain things that you need to improve, but I've never seen anybody so far that whose a weakness become their key strength. So another thing that I've realized very quickly is, focus on your strengths, and things, good things will happen to you. Future of jobs. So the next topic that I would like to cover is, given the COVID situation and where the corporate world and the technology is heading, what sort of jobs would be available in the future? So the first thing that comes to my mind is the artificial intelligence. So a lot of things that we are trying to automate, therefore the AI technologies will improve, whether it be through Apple or Google or any other organization. You would see a lot of new AI technologies coming in, and robotic automation, things get automated. The other piece that I actually think is very important to focus on is IoT. So Internet of Things, that most of the organizations and even people in general, they just want to automate things as much as they can, whether it be a TV or a mobile phone or a fridge, agriculture, regardless of where you are. There's always things that is automated and using the IoT technologies. The third item that I think is very important is cybersecurity. So lots of people have started working remotely, and a lot of people access the systems remotely to their day jobs. So cybersecurity is going to be very, very important. And also the other side is, like, I don't know about you guys, I do a lot of online shopping, right? So when you started doing financial transactions and physical transactions through the web, cybersecurity becomes a very important factor. So if you like, hacking, become an ethical hacker, because lots of organizations will invite good hackers to come and try to penetrate their systems just to see, how secure their environments are. So I think ethical hacking and cybersecurity is, has a really good future given the circumstances that we live in. The last but not least, regardless of how much artificial intelligence, IoT, cybersecurity, skills are important, the thought leadership and true people leaders are always going to be important to any organization, especially given people will be working remotely and you won't have the old school, the management capabilities to see, okay, you've got 10 people in the office, I can see what they're doing. The trust is important. People will be working remotely. So how do you become a true leader who supports them and also who can motivate them? So that way they will be doing their best work. And the leadership, I think, is a very important, key aspect of that. So pathway to get there. There are a few things, all based on my experience over the last, 18, 20 years. Attitude. It's not a mistake that I wrote it 3 times. The most important thing in anybody is the right attitude. So if you have the right attitude, if you take that to work or in your personal life, you will actually move forward, not backwards. Never say never. There's nothing like keep trying, right? So to give you a bit of a backstory, before I started with Woolworths, I applied for 4 jobs. The 4th time I was successful. The first time I applied, something happened, didn't get it. Second time, yep. Third time, the same story. But the 4th time, I always wanted to work for Woolworths, so I keep trying. So the moral of the story is keep trying and you will be successful. Learn more from every opportunity. Sometimes even the negative opportunities bring the best in yourself. So whether you're working in a group assignment, working in a corporate world, sometimes you may have, the leaders who are not really following the servant leadership, right? So, it can be frustrating, but the best thing to do is you learn from those guys. And when they're making a mistake, that you can actually learn from that and say, when I become a leader, I will not follow that. So every opportunity is a good opportunity. Even a poor interaction with an individual or an organization can be a positive influence in your career. Seek feedback. Always ask feedback, right? It doesn't have to be from your, superiors. Ask feedback from anybody who are happy to give you feedback, and honesty is the key, right? If the feedback comes from a good place, appreciate them, and take them, because they're little gold nuggets that would help you immensely in your career. Learn your craft and how to communicate. One of the key things that I've learned and I've seen is there are very intelligent people in organizations. Like, they do a lot of good work, but sometimes where they get unstuck is their communication skills. So if you can communicate and if you can get through to teams, if you can present your skills to everybody, and this is how you get opportunities and new doors will open. So one of the key things that I always say is learn to communicate very effectively. The last but not least, enjoy what you do. As I said previously, if you like what you do, it becomes a choice. So you will enjoy what you do and the success will follow. The next slide, please. Okay, so before and I would like to leave you with 2 quotes from 2 of my favorite people. So Nelson Mandela and Michael Jordan. Both of these quotations actually resonates with me. So I just want to leave this with you. And thank you very much for the opportunity. Over to you, Saurabh.
Thank you so much for the wonderful presentation on your career journey, Mr. Muthindra. It was truly incredible to learn about your journey as well as the lessons you've learned so far. Especially with the current situation with the pandemic, I think your lessons about not giving up and continuing to grow is truly inspiring. And this will surely inspire many students who are listening to us on Zoom call, as well as who are listening to us live on Facebook. But moving ahead, our next speaker is Mr. Subash Nambiar. Subash completed his Masters in Commerce from University of Madras, India, and then he went on to pursue management program from Singapore Management University. He has a range of experience from being the Deputy General Manager at IBM India to being the Vice President for Oracle Cloud Businesses in the ANZ region. Currently, he is the Vice President of Asia Pacific and Japan region for Sauce Labs, which is the world's largest continuous testing cloud of web and mobile applications. I'm so delighted to welcome you today, Subash. We look forward to learning from you. Over to you, Subash.
Thank you, Shruthi and Saurabh, for the introduction. And I'd like to thank UNSW PG, ARC, and Opportunities Australia to arrange this program. I'm really excited to meet the PG students. I'm going to start with a small story here. And I see that more than 60 plus people have joined at 6:30 in Australia and Sydney. You already made a difference for yourself, right? So when I used to do new joinees in Oracle, I used to take this story. Actually, I'm going to say that's a very small story. Two friends went to the forest and they saw a tiger. One of their friend took out his running shoes and started wearing it. He said, "You think you can run better than the tiger?" He said, "No, I just have to run faster than you." Right? So now how do you make a difference is you already done the first step. You've joined this program and you wanted to do good for yourself. You're definitely different from other people who have not joined the course. And I look forward the second day also you will participate. Having said that, I'm going to give you very few secret sauce for success. There are some secret sauces, right? We're going to share with my experience. Of course, if you see my stepping ladder was one more company before that. Like Muthindra said, that was a lot of experiment in the beginning. It's very important for all of us. I don't want to, start with I've seen many people just start a job and they'll retire in that job, right? Of course, they are I'm not saying it's wrong. It's good. They enjoy it and they are happy with that. They're not experimented. But you may not even know whether that's the right job you want to do whole of your life, right? Let me take an example. I'm going to talk more about technology selling. Why did I choose technology selling is when I realized I'm going to cut across multiple industries, right? If an automobile industry is going down, I'm still there to help them on technology front. If banking and finance is going down, I'm still have a job in hand and I can help the banking company to come up. So if you look at technology, it cuts across all the industry. There's no end, there's no dip for a technology. So that's why I chose technology. So we're cutting across all the industries. That's number one. Number two, when I took a sales job, I'm just going to talk to you about 4 big pillars of sales. It starts with enterprise sales, key accounts, major account, government accounts, small and medium business. This is kind of segmentation in many corporates does it. If you take up a government job, you will continue getting a similar job. You take up a government business sales, you'll be in Canberra or maybe in any other country, you'll go to a similar job which becomes a stamp on you, which is not good. So you try your initial experiment, go and figure out what is enterprise selling or maybe what is other technology like Muthindra said. Try out your hands in the beginning. I assume most of your PG students looking forward for a job or maybe some experience you have in the beginning, but try it out now. There is no loan for you. There is no commitment for you. Try experiment now. You may be surprised that you are excited in some particular territory which you wouldn't even believe yourself. That's my experience is experiment in the beginning. You can't experiment at a later stage. It's difficult because a company A will hire you seeing your previous experience. If you have a 5-year of government selling, they will give you a job for government selling. So if you have a mix of all, you will be able to comfortably fit in. So try that secret sauce. Expand the territory. Again, my own example, I was a vice president running more than $100 million business in India as a technology head for Oracle. Had more than 200 people reporting to me. I said, I want to change. And ANZ cloud business was picking up. We need to build up that. So they asked me, are you interested? I said, I'll definitely jump to these. A smaller team, smaller number, but I said, this is a territory expansion for me. I want to do that. So I have Singapore experience, I have India experience, I've got now ANZ experience. My next jump was Sauce Lab. They said, You covered most of the geography. Would you like to head our Asia Pacific and Japan business? So I didn't think twice, take a new risk, new place to start my career again in NZ 3 years back. Because of that, I could get the Asia Pacific and Japan business. So don't fear out, even if it is a small. If you're handling a New South Wales in Australia, try it out in Melbourne, try out somewhere else. Don't stick yourself to one territory. That's my second secret sauce. Move from your comfort zone. I will again go back to my previous example where I said I was comfortable doing my numbers year on year. When I came to Australia, this is a new territory. So comfort zone has moved away from me. But believe me, the first 2 years, our team did number one. ANZ Oracle did number one across APAC. It's not because of me, it's because of the team, how they built it up. I was able to add and mentor them properly, and they won the award for the next 2 years. So move away from your comfort zone. That shows yourself your confidence. You can do it. Build your team. I believe in mentoring. When Kumar came and asked me, are you interested? That's my interest. And I want to do that because if you see your own team, when you become a manager and your team is going to depend on you, you've got to make sure, build your skills, how to manage people, how to give feedback. Taking feedback is also one. Same way, how do you give feedback to your team? There are many capabilities of your team. You have to learn all those things when you build a team. Make sure you build your team in a fantastic way. In fact, when I took over, the attrition has come down to 0 in Oracle because the team really enjoyed the job. So it's very important not look at the numbers, what you have to deliver. Look at inside and see what you have to give them to the team to achieve the number. So build your team. They're going to give it back to you. They will be going to multiple other companies, but still they will come and ask me. Even now I have people who are calling me from other companies saying that, can you help me in this? Because they believe I can mentor them. So keep that in your mind. That's a very important responsibility. The fourth one is social responsibility, which is what I believe we need to give back. Mentoring is another thing. It's not going to stop just in this 15 minutes, 20-minute session. I look forward for any of you need some kind of a help, support, reach out to us. Kumar is there. He's building up a huge mentorship team here. We are here to help. We want to make sure that we give back to junior students who are starting their business. It was very difficult for us. Those days, we had to learn from others, right? We don't have a forum like a Zoom where you can go and just sit down and listen to, senior people talking about it. So you have a chance now, leverage it. We are here to give it back. Same way when you grow, we expect, you should give back to the society and people who's looking forward what you have learned. Of course, the last, of course, Katherine is going to talk more about ethics and compliance. I've got a very important things to say. It's not for your manager you're working, it's for yourself. That's the one of the very secret sauce, because you work yourself. There are some ethics and compliance. Not necessarily it's ironed out in the company brochure, but you got to build up your own ethics and compliance. Very important for your name in the market. So build that as one of the very important secret sauce, which I can share it with you. This is my success stories. Of course, future job responsibility, job opportunities, what you have. Let me take the current job, what I'm doing. It's a very interesting job. The products work on artificial intelligence, machine learning, and natural language processes, similar to what Muthindra said just before. What it does is, earlier we used to sit and code JavaScripts for testing. These products can do without scripts. That means a functional tester can build just writing a natural language saying that click here, do that, and that creates a JavaScript behind knowing your artificial intelligence, machine learning. So this is going to be the future. It will change probably in the next 5 years, something else will come up. But at present, the product which I am doing is, I'm really amazed to see the way it is creating a codes in no time. We used to write codes before. Now the machine is writing codes based on your natural language processing. So some of the future job opportunities based on that pathway, nothing like, hard work hard, work for yourself, not for your manager, build your team, and all the secret sauce which I gave you today. I hope we can expand it later. Whenever you want to hear more about that, reach out to us. We are here to help you. Thank you very much. Over to you, Shruthi.
Thank you so much for that, Subash. It was really great hearing you speak about so many great insights. Your industry experience is so inspiring, and I'm sure many students will have a lot of questions for you during the Q&A session. One takeaway that I personally have from this is to not have any fear, and that's something that students have to learn. And just before we move ahead, we will be taking a 5-minute break. So if you'd like to just go grab a cup of coffee and come back for us sharp at 6:52, I think we will go ahead from there. Thanks, everyone.
Welcome back from the break, everyone. I hope everybody is back here. We just want to keep that break so that it's not too tiring for the students because we have had sessions since 5 p.m. Anyways, it's time to move forward. So, change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time. We are the ones we have been waiting for. We are the change that we seek. These are some great words by the former US President Barack Obama. And we definitely have some great speakers coming ahead who themselves have adopted through that change to become successful in their lives. It's time to move forward with the next speaker for today, that is Katherine Smith. Originally admitted in New Zealand, Katherine is an experienced restructuring and insolvency lawyer, advising clients about contentious and non contentious aspects of corporate insolvency, bankruptcy, and recoveries, including examining antecedent, transactions, securities enforcement, and investigations, and providing strategic advice to creditors and insolvency practitioners in relation to the tracing and recovering of funds. Katherine leads a vibrant and dynamic team to provide responsive, commercial, and practical legal solutions in the insolvency space. She also has extensive experience developing policies and legislative reform relating to debt recovery and insolvency, particularly addressing Phoenix risk as well as delivery of substantive training modules across a range of insolvency related fields. What an honor it is for me to welcome you as the third presenter for the evening, Katherine, today.
Thank you, Saurabh, and thank you to UNSW and the organisers of tonight's event. I'm truly inspired by the first two speakers from Opportunities Australia. Really, I'd like to echo a lot of what Muthindra and Subash have said tonight during my presentation as well. And one of those things is that everyone's career journey is different, and depending on what life throws at you, look to the opportunities, position yourself to get the best out of it, and be true to yourself. So when you're doing that, think about what you stand for, and think about what you're doing is more than a job, more than a career, and really what is the legacy that you'd like to leave for people when you leave. So in saying that, I think at the beginning of maybe starting out, you might not have any idea about what you want to do with your career. And looking back on my career journey, I can say that with hindsight, I can say a theme for me is no surprise. I'm a lawyer, and I stand for getting justice for people and levelling the playing field. So as an insolvency lawyer, I'm trying to get money back for creditors. I do a lot of work for liquidators where companies have gone belly up, and we've all seen government come in recently to help businesses stay afloat over the COVID pandemic. But definitely before that help, businesses were going belly up and having a real financial crisis. And you would say that most people were trying to do the right thing, but a lot of people weren't. And that's what I've been doing in my career is trying to get back money for creditors who the businesses they've been dealing with have phoenixed. They've jumped to another entity and left the debts behind, not caring about other people's livelihoods. So I really care about levelling the playing field and making sure that people aren't being taken advantage of. And that comes into the ethics of what happens on a day-to-day basis. And in any case, my first role after graduating with a law and arts degree was not what I was imagining for myself. I wanted to be one of those, a diplomat. And I ended up working for the tax department, which that was at the time something that I didn't think was really something that I cared about. But my first case I was involved with was a director appointed his nephew as a liquidator of a company, and was getting away with ripping off all the creditors, including the tax department. So that got me really interested in addressing what I thought was the insolvency Wild West in New Zealand. And it got me really excited about trying to have some law reform in that area. So I worked doing that for a little while, and I had an opportunity after about 3 years in a kind of general legal services role to be seconded into a debt recovery area. And this opportunity was fantastic for me because I was exposed to doing things that were technically more than just a lawyer. I was involved in a project which required reporting to government. So really look out for those kinds of opportunities if you're in different roles. Secondments in organisations come up all the time, and being exposed to different areas of an organisation can really open your mind to possibilities. I'm actually currently on a secondment to the NAB, so I'm really living out that experience right now. And if any of you are thinking of careers as lawyers and in a law firm, those kind of secondments come up. And also within law firms, you can do a lot of rotations through different areas of a law firm to understand different areas of law, so you can really get a feel for what you really like and what you're good at. A good thing about the move or my secondment at the time, the beginning of my career, was at the same time I was offered an external role, and that meant I was in a position to negotiate a much better salary. So I was very happy about that as well. So thinking about remuneration is one thing that comes along with your career as well, and it's good to try and think one step ahead to position yourself well in that regard. In my time on my secondment, I learned a lot. I had an opportunity to be part of national special interest groups and work on policy initiatives. I also attended Parliament to advise on insolvency law reform. So I had great opportunities in that role. I also, and a key thing was for me, I attended a Trans-Tasman debt recovery conference where I had an opportunity to meet people from the Australian Tax Office, and this will come in handy for me later. So those connections, really keeping in contact with people and making the most of your connections is something that will help you going forward no matter what. In 2000, just to change tack a little bit, 2007, outside of work, I was managing a gymnastics team to go to Austria to a World Gymnastics Festival, and that experience was quite extraordinary. And but I came back and I thought I need a change. I'd been, over to Europe on a summer holiday and came back to windy Wellington. Thought I need a bit of a sea change. I'm going to move to Sydney. I didn't know anyone in Sydney at the time, except for a couple of friends. And it was a really hard change to make. One of my uni jobs actually came in very handy at that point in time, and I worked as a temp, as a legal secretary, and got to know people around Sydney. But it was the Trans-Tasman Debt Recovery Conference, which landed me a job at the tax office. And after 3 years, half that time in Sydney and half the time in Brisbane, that contract came to an end because I wasn't a citizen of Australia. So I had to make a really big decision. What was I going to do? Stay in Australia or move to New Zealand? Actually, and just stopping right there, some of the things that I learned during my time at the tax office, one thing was that government recruitment processes are absolutely grueling. And if you're ever applying for a job in government, try and seek out someone who has gone through that process and knows what's expected, because the difference, I sat on a number of recruitment panels during my time at the tax office, and the difference between the external applicants and internal applicants was there was quite a difference in those applications. So you really need to give all the examples and things that you can. Seek out people who know about it, and I just generally identify mentors that will help in your career, and think about how those mentors can help you in different ways. You might have more than one mentor, for instance, an academic mentor, someone who may be able to help you just with stepping out your career journey and identifying the values that are important to you, your strengths, and other people who might be able to make connections for you. So that's the transition factor. If you don't know people, it's very hard to get into the industry and get a foot in the door. So those connections are really important. And if you can identify a mentor who can introduce you to different people in the industry you want to get into, that would be my piece of advice. And in any case, so throughout my career, as I was saying, I just have I want to have a fair go for everyone. I ended up moving back to New Zealand and into a role that was designed for me, and it was a surprise to the tax office in New Zealand that I applied, but it was designed with me in mind, and I landed this a job where I was doing such a variety of things in policy, in training, in people management, and I was back with my New Zealand family, so that was fantastic. But in the end, life kind of comes around, and I moved back to Sydney for love. But this time I actually had a job lined up in private practice, and I had, it was a junior role, so it was very difficult coming from a senior position into a junior position, and because I hadn't had any private practice experience previously, the boss was pretty pedantic and red-penned everything, so that was a little hard to take. But I kept my eye on the prize, which at that time was the maternity leave policy. I really wanted to have children, so it was important to me, even though it was a struggle to stay focused in the job, to really give it a good go. And yes, then I had children. So one of my big matters actually when I was in private practice was, when I started in private practice, was a matter where I had worked on where the client had been a refugee from El Salvador and had been taken advantage of in the tendering process by the state departments. And so my theme of giving people a fair go continued through my private practice as well. Coming back to the family, that case was settled just before I went on maternity leave, and I came back, and my supervising partner from that law firm had set up his own boutique. So I left the mid-tier and went with my boss at the time to the boutique. It was a small firm with few resources, and I did struggle with the juggle. That experience taught me that really try not to take on too much. You can't do everything at once. And burnout is a real issue. I'm sure it's an issue in more than just the legal profession. But one piece of advice I actually forgot at the time was that if you're overwhelmed with everything, just go into the bathroom, shrug your shoulders and just release it and just say, stuff it. I can't do everything all at once. But I took a little break, a career break, to figure out really what was important to me. And as I realized that I wasn't doing the best I could do every day. And it's really important that you identify that, what makes you tick. I then landed a job with K&R Gates, which is a global law firm. And I had an opportunity to work on a Trans-Tasman project, which is still going, and had an historic joint sitting of the New Zealand High Court and the Federal Court of Australia in December last year, with the decisions coming out just last month. It was a first for the courts to sit together. It was during COVID, so that was a real project management, and I could do the best I could do every day. I loved it. I love the people. Well, I love the people I work with, and I love that I get to work with a great team. I can help them identify their strengths and help them do what they do best every day as well. I might finish there.
Thank you so much for the fantastic way of putting forward your career journey as well as your life journey, Katherine. I'm sure that it inspired and motivated many students out here. But just to move ahead, now I would like to invite Mr. Satya Upadhyaya, who is our last speaker for today. It's really great to have you with us, Mr. Satya. Quick fact about Satya is that he is an alumni of UNSW Sydney. He completed his master's in marketing from UNSW in 2009. He's currently working as the Vice President of Campaign Optimization, Marketing Capability and Change at Citi. As a marketing technology thought leader, he has a track record in optimizing the customer journey through design, implementation, launch, and monitoring of data-driven and insights-powered initiatives. A talent for assessing and validating gaps on their level of complexity, interdependencies, and recommendations to close. Working in collaboration with business and IT leadership teams, he designs the way forward for organizations to optimize the end-to-end customer journey and create tangible benefits for customers across the value chain. It is definitely my pleasure to welcome you as the final presenter for this evening, Mr. Satya. Over to you.
Thank you, Shruthi. Good evening, everyone. Being the last speaker is sometimes an easy and a hard job. I think the legacy left behind by Muthindra, Subash, and Katherine, I'll try to match their level of expertise in terms of what they've delivered. Thank you very much, New South Wales, University of New South Wales, Saurabh and your team for giving me this opportunity to talk. I guess just taking on from Muthindra and Subash, they've given you a bit of an experience of how they started their career journey. I'll give you a quick spill and then I'll turn the table around in terms of how things happen from a practicality perspective. So a lot of you are maybe in, I don't know what year of graduation, but gradually and in a couple of years' time, you would be actually entering the workflow. So how academia is different to real life. I'd like to give you a spill in terms of how marketing is shaping up in the future. So those who are in the commerce or marketing stream could have a look at that. One of my advice would be reach out to us, either myself, Muthindra, Subash, Katherine, connect on LinkedIn, network. If you have any questions for today or tomorrow, and let's answer those for you. Very quickly about me. So who's Satya? So I started my journey working as a market researcher for AC Nelson while I was completing my degree. And that was way back in 2001 from the University of New South Wales, not actually in the University of New South Wales, but University of Western Sydney. I did some work and then I got an opportunity to work for HSBC. I worked for them for about 5 years. 3 years into my course at HSBC, I was offered to do a master's program for UNSW. I was a corporate sponsored candidate, and that's how I ended up with University of New South Wales. In terms of my lifespan, working in the last 20 years, I've worked across multiple industries, both on client side, in consulting and startups. I've worked as a data analyst. I've worked in marketing technology, customer service, operations, from organizations like HSBC, Bankwest, and Citibank in the financial sector, a membership-based organization, NRMA, and I've also worked for wagering in casino organization, the Star City, or the Star as it's called. And I've done some consulting work with Tabcorp. Next slide, please. So I want to take a perspective in terms of, as I said, I'd like to take you on this journey of how you transition from academia into corporate life. So I think Subash and Muthindra gave you some nuggets in terms of what are the qualities that you need to have. And I'll start off with a few of that. So when you enter your corporate life, the thing that you need to bring on the table is you need to be able to think outside the box. You should always be constantly learning, always be a learner, learn new skills, new ways of doing things, new ways of doing same things in a better way. Network, reach out to people and connect. And this is really very important for you as a student. So when I say network, you should be reaching out to people in corporate world and expressing your desire to work with them, learn from them. Don't be afraid of failures. Don't be afraid of rejections. Every 10 people you reach out to, only 10% is going to revert back and respond to you. Reach out to them, ask for all their feedback, publish a piece of article, ask their feedback, critically let them evaluate. And this is how you're going to basically build your network. And then gain the life skill that you learn. If you're a sports person, as Muthindra said, he loves sports. If you're loving sports, the life skill that you learn from sports is more about teamwork and collaboration. So those are my few points in terms of how you actually build your skills from moving from academia into corporate life. Jumping very quickly, maintaining that favor of corporate life. If you are a student of marketing, or if you're a student of commerce, there's a lot of change that is happening in what you're currently studying and what's evolving. Again, Muthindra and Subash talked about technology. They talked about artificial intelligence. They've talked about Internet of Things. That really is also impacting marketing in a very big way. So in my next few slides, I'll talk to you about what the future of marketing looks like and what marketers can do to be successful today, which is going to be called the new normal. So effectively, when you studied your books in commerce, you've talked about mass marketing. You gradually moved into analytical marketing or database marketing. And as you move into 2020 and beyond, you'll be looking at cognitive ways of marketing. And when you talk about cognitive ways of marketing, that's where the reliance and dependencies and influence of technology comes in very, very handy. So what marketing used to be just above the line marketing, more around public relations, advertising, and sales promotion, it's now data driven, it's insight led and analytically powered. The skills that you need to be in marketing today is very different to the skills that you require as of yesterday. Of yesterday, you required more about skills in communication. Today in marketing, you need to be having the skills of data and analytics. You need to be understanding the data language. You need to be friends with IT. You need to understand how IT influences what you do in marketing. The other thing, what's evolving in marketing today is you've got new customer classes that are coming up. You've heard of millennials, you've heard of Generation X, you've heard of Generation Y. This is Generation Z, and I'm assuming that guys, you today who are listening are basically Generation Z. You are the power. Just imagine the behaviors that you exhibit today are the behaviors and the customer experiences that organizations need to deliver to basically respond to the growing needs of customers of your age group. You as an age group, the Generation Z, you basically command an influencing a spending power of anything up to $200 billion annually. So look, organizations need to start looking at how Generation Z operate, how Generation Z demand an experience which is digital, an experience which is immersive, an experience which is immersive or continuous. This is something that you are demanding, and organizations need to respond to that. And when you exit academia and you come to your corporate life, these are the exhibits that you need to perform to provide a better landscape and a capability for an organization. Next slide, please. So again, as I said, why focus on Generation Z and in the future of marketing? Generation Z represents about 33% of the world population, which is about 2.5 billion. So you become the key influencers of the decision-making of the purchasing power that happens in your household. Currently, maybe your parents are actually making those decisions. However, you have a big influence. So as a marketer, it's important for them to understand that Gen Z and actually do whatever they do to influence that Gen Z. Next slide, please. So understanding what I've just given you, I've just scraped the surface in terms of what that future of marketing looks like. So what do you really need to do as a student today? What you need to learn to morph from an academic bookish language of marketing and translate that into a practical application that will be utilized in your job space. Next slide. So what's required now in marketing is an experience which is on demand, an experience which is highly relevant, an experience which is delightful. And what that means is the ability to fail fast, the ability to do test and learn, and the ability to do agile delivery. If you have some students here who are from the computing background, they would understand agile as a concept from software delivery, which is all about from initiation to execution, the time to market is very, very quick. So you have an idea. How do you do ideation? How do you do test and learn? How do you do execution? How do you basically measure your success? And if it fails, how do you come back, retest, redeploy, and go back again? This is something that was not very relevant in marketing yesterday. This is something which is going to be very, very relevant in the future of marketing. So how you come up with a concept, how do you test, how do you deploy, and how do you retest again is going to be the future. So this is another skill that you need to have. This is another area that is going to be growing, and you need to invest in. Next slide, please. So when I talk about traditional marketing and the future of marketing, how things are different. So on the left side, you see what you currently study is all from the from side. What you'll be working on in the future is to the to side. And this is where the balance needs to happen, is that how do you actually transfer yourself very quickly from what you learn in the books, and how do you translate that into practicality? So earlier, marketing was all about having strategic prediction, which was you had an idea and you work on that idea. Now it's more about customer discovery. The customer becomes the center and the heart of everything that you want to do. Earlier, content was king. So what you learn in marketing and advertising and promotion, everything is based on content. The better content you have, the higher reach you get. However, as you morph into the future of marketing, it's all about content is analytically informed. And that's where the agile concepts come in, which is all about test and learn and fail fast. Earlier, you had a blanket solution. And what that meant is that you have one solution and you put that across to everyone. And that was pretty much what you did in mass marketing. Now in the future, it's all about personalized interaction. And personalized interaction basically means one-on-one communication. It requires segmentation of one. It requires understanding of data and analytics. It's understanding of how you bring technology in the mix to provide that exponential customer experience. Earlier, you had sales, marketing, and product operating in silos. As I talked about, one of the skills that you need to have is teamwork and collaboration. In the future, you need to have marketing, how it integrates with sales, how it integrates with product, and how it actually integrates with IT. That becomes the new friend in marketing. Earlier, in marketing, you had longer lead time. So remember, when you had a banner ad that you wanted to do, you had the above-the-line ad that was going on television. Your lead time would have been what you learn in books is about 3 months. Now, in the future, it's all about real-time newsroom model. And what that means, an action happens, something happens, a reaction needs to take place. And that's the newsroom model. So you have an organization doing bad, you have negative sentiments flowing on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. You need to respond as an organization very quickly in real time. Earlier, we were talking about pay for exposure, and now you basically pay for performance. In the past, you had big bets, and now you're going to have continuous improvement. And again, continuous improvement is all about being agile, being nimble, being able to fail fast and cover your ground and come back very, very quickly. Next slide, please. So what does that mean? So how is marketing morphing, and what type of roles will evolve in the future in the discipline of marketing? So one of the things that you would have picked up is the earlier marketing domain was focused on product. The future domain is going to be focused on customer centricity. So everything that you do needs to revolve around the customer. So what you need to learn is that what's the value to the brand and what's the value to the customer, and how do you bring that equation in the mix? So everything in marketing that you're going to be learning around has to be centered around the customer. The focal point of marketing yesterday was around the customer, today is around the customer, and in the future would be around the customer. The other thing is, how do you operate seamlessly? That means that marketing needs to not only operate with sales, marketing also needs to operate with technology. So how do you actually make your operations seamless? How do you basically bring in straight through processing? And the last is unlocking technology. So marketing capability and technology is all about orchestrating the tools and data to create a digital experience. So what exactly is digital? So it's a good segue to close my my presentation by taking you and making you understand what exactly is digital and how you actually embrace digital. So if you are again a marketing or a commerce or an IT student, you would be looking at digital as a channel. And that channel is an SMS, email, push. However, the digital of what you call is digital transformation or digitization, it's actually embracing the capabilities that focus around the customer. It's all around anything that you do to provide a seamless operation, a seamless customer experience to a customer. It's all about providing you straight through processing. It's about looking at new ways of operation. It's re-looking at the current way you operate and how does that open up the frontiers of driving growth and revenue in a better way. Digitization or digital is all about being better. It's all about being faster. It's all about being simpler. And how do you actually standardize that across and automate things? In terms of the job skills that will be required in the future in the space of marketing, you'll definitely have all those roles of marketing, PR, advertising, content. However, you need to be understanding the data language, how data is collected, how data is going to be stored, and how data is going to be used for most customer communication and marketing analytics. You have current roles of data analyst. You have roles of data scientists. You have roles of data engineers. Marketing students need to start embracing those capabilities and learning about those skills of data. Then they'll transform in 5 years. They'll become neuro A/B testers. You'll have sixth sense analyst. You'll have micro interaction specialist. And what that is again telling you, if you look back, how data is collected, how data is stored, and how data is going to be used. So again, marketing is going to be data-driven, insights-led, and analytically powered with the influence of technology. So if you are a student of marketing, if you're a student of commerce, you need to be friends with data. You need to start embracing technology. You need to be able to build customer journeys and weave those customer journeys across the fabric of data and technology to bring forward an exponential customer experience. That's from me, a brief presentation about myself and what the future of marketing looks like. I welcome the opportunity to take questions and answer them as they come through.
Thank you so much for that insightful presentation, Satya. I think you covered a lot of important points, and for myself itself, I can take some key takeaways in terms of agile delivery, which you talked about, collapse of the traditional marketing, and how now we are moving towards the new style of marketing, the digital marketing, which you really touched base upon at the end of your presentation. But I'm sure the audience has a lot of questions here, so it's time now to move towards the Q&A session, which runs for around 30 minutes, and where we will be taking questions from the audience. So the floor is yours to post any questions, either on the Zoom chat, or you can also ask directly by unmuting yourselves and turning your video on. Just to make sure that the flow of the Zoom keeps on going, we would request you to use the raise your hand feature on the Zoom, so that it will help us to showcase that you are interested to ask any questions, and one of us can start taking the questions. So can you just check on the Zoom chat, Shruthi, if there are any questions coming forward for any of the speakers?
Yeah, Saurabh, I think we had one question initially as well. I'm just going to read through. It's from Luis, and they're okay with having anybody answer this. So it goes this way: in light of challenging economic circumstances, given that unlike previous years, skill mobility, I think, just a second. Skill mobility is tougher and harder in the Australian climate, especially for international students. The challenge these days is that it seems even when students, international students especially, are ready and willing to move out of their comfort zones for jobs, the process seems to be very nuanced with phrases like Australian experience only, even if one has already worked in the same industry elsewhere. You're not a good culture fit, etc. How do your companies try to cushion this impact and remove this false excuses for international students trying to navigate the work environment here in Australia? I would like you to contrast the fact that your experiences are already from few years ago and things have changed a lot. How will you advise someone who is ready to move away from their comfort zone but is told that they lack Australian experience for entry-level role? So any speaker who'd like to take on this question, the floor is yours.
Shruthi, I'm happy to take that on. I think Louis actually replied back to his initial question as well. So I don't know whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. 20 years ago, when I was looking for a job, I had the exact same excuses coming through, right? So the way that I actually tackle that is, I was a information technology graduate with and business, double majors in business and information technology. So the first thing I actually did was I had to make a choice between looking for a role that is specifically fitting to my skill set versus how do I get my foot in through the door, so that way actually I can prove myself. So personally, at one level, I was actually applying for about 500 jobs a week. That is a lot of jobs, but the more you try, it's probability, right? So when you apply for 500, you're hoping at least one or two things will come through. So I actually did. So when I started my first role, it was more of an admin role. And very quickly, I had to learn the ropes there, learn the art of navigating in the Australian market, in Australian professional circuit, and learn how the Australia, here how people work in an organization. So that was the very initial first step through the door, and then within 3 months, I was promoted to be a business analyst, and I was actually heading towards what I was doing. So my advice to anybody would be, apply for any role that you think that you will have an opportunity to be successful. Once you're within the organization, you'll be able to prove yourself and reach your goals and get a role that is in line with what you've studied. So that's my personal sort of experience. And over to you, Satya, Subash, or Katherine, if you want to take it on as well.
I think Muthindra, I'll take it from there. So I think just to Muthindra's point, you need to have a plan in terms of what your long-term vision is, and to attain that long-term vision, what are the short steps you're going to take in the short term. And I had a similar experience. So when I joined HSBC, I was pretty much in the direct marketing, which was a call center, and I did that work for about a year, and then there was an opportunity to do multicultural marketing. So I presented a SWOT analysis of what exactly is multicultural marketing and how you can bridge the gap between India and Australia, and understanding the migrant population between India and Australia, and how finances happen between those two countries. And I presented a paper, and based on that presentation, it went very well. And then my head of direct marketing came to me saying, Satya, what your future plans are? You look like you have a marketing brain, you've got some experience, and how we can utilize it better. Do you want to are you looking at doing some further studies to enhance your capabilities? And I said, yes, I'm looking at doing a master's program for marketing from the University of New South Wales, and they sponsored me to do that. So to follow Muthindra's point, you need to have a plan, and you need to work towards your plan, and automatically success will follow you. And that's where you need to start reach out to people. What I did was that, as I said, I was always a learner. I was looking at doing new things, learning new skills. So I understand how call center operations work. I understand how the IVR lines in the call center work. And that was none of my job description. So I used to put my hand up for anything. I was at NRMA, and that's how I started basically morphing into leadership roles. So apart from doing my job, I started doing the admin jobs of my head, and which means that they had a lot of paperwork. They had invoice processing, how purchase orders are made, how contracts are put forward, how do you do a requisition for a solution from a vendor. And again, that was not part of my job description, but I learned it putting my hand up. Okay, I want to learn it. I want to know how it is done. And then gradually, as you start doing it, the good things come is that people start handing you responsibilities. And when there's a formal opportunity to place someone in that role, guess what? You are the first person to be considered. So again, always put your hand up for anything that you want to learn, and reach out, go away from your comfort zone and learn it. The maximum that will happen is that you'll make a mistake. Don't be shy from failures. Rise back again and again.
Thank you so much, Satya and Muthindra. I think there is another question directed towards Satya. That is again by Louis. So Louis is asking, in the technology sector, companies are sometimes slow in incorporating novel technologies that have not been tested very thoroughly elsewhere in the industry. Practically in marketing, how easy it is, in your experience, for research to move from academic to field? And I mean, how easy and willing are firms willing to accept and try out new and potentially innovative ways of doing things that have not been tried elsewhere? Example, a computer scientist designs a potentially innovative advert and he wants to get into a company to try it out. So in your experience, Satya, are companies generally willing to at least give it a try on a segment of the customer base?
I'm delighted with that question, Louise. Thank you very much. It's a beautiful question and a great question. So congratulations, firstly, for thinking through that level of depth. There's one thing I'd like to make you. It's very insightful for you to understand. So there's innovation that happens, and innovation happens at a very, very rapid pace in what you learn. So the way I define is that in consulting language, innovation happens exponentially. However, the adoption of that innovation or that technology in an organization happens incrementally at a snail pace. So what you learn, what you read in terms of best practices or better ways of doing things, faster ways of doing things, sometimes actually exist in consulting language. The ability for an organization to move and adapt to those changes is not that fast, and that is because of they've got mountains to move. They're a large organization. They've got legacy systems. They've got cultural changes, people's mindset to change, and as a result of which, what you learn sometimes in books, what you try to see coming out as papers in white papers, and if you go to an organization, there could be some frustration that it's not as gloomy, it's not as rosy as you would have thought about. Now, if you really want to try a lot of that and which organizations are really doing it better, you need to basically be working in a startup rather than a large corporate mentality organization, which are slow to move. The organization which are a startup, if you try to work for Google, if you like to work for Amazon, if you look at Uber, if you look at Netflix, all those, the great innovations that are happening in that space. Good example in Australia could be Woolworths as well. They're trying to be innovative. They're trying to look at digital as well. So again, it's to answer your question very specifically, organizations are really very slow in reacting to change and innovation as compared to consulting of what you read in white papers and what you think are best practices and the way to move forward.
So just to add, thank you, Satya. It's a good, your field is talking about marketing. But I think looking at the question, what Luis is looking at is he's got an idea and he wants to try it out with a company. It's not a marketing kind of a thing. It's not a mass marketing. Maybe probably wants an opportunity to go to a company and say, hey, I've got a technology. Can you guys try it out? Of course, yes. In fact, the lack of ideas is the problem in starting a company. I would encourage you to start your own startup or a company on your own. And if you have an idea, that's what going to take you up. And I'm sure there are many companies which will try it out, but not on a production environment. But if there is all small companies started off in the same way, I will encourage you, think with an entrepreneur hat. If you have an idea, why not? It can be a seed money, it can be angel investors, anything can be started off like that. So think in that route also. Instead of looking at going and joining a company or a startup, you think about starting your own company is what my encouragement would be.
Thanks for that, Subash and Satya. Next, we have a question from Mitch. And the question is, how do you suggest early career entrants balance work hard to prove their worth and not burning out? Subash, if you'd like to take this one first.
Yes, so it's tough. It's a tough question, actually. Of course, it's nothing called burning out. There is, in fact, in India, I will say that, we worked much more than what we used to work in Australia. There's a clear work-life policies here. And of course, it's your own interest you need to prove. I don't think you're going to be given a huge task to complete in a short period of time. It is up to you to take the ownership and prove. Not only for that, you should enjoy the job, what you're doing, right? Initially, yes, you may not. You may get it and start proving it. I don't think it's going to burn out, because the enthusiasm you will have now is, give me a job. I have the enthusiasm even now. Give me a challenging role. I will like to work for 18 hours. No problems at all. So I think you will automatically get that. The idea is first to get a job. Once you get a job, you will be surprised by yourself that, how am I working? I'm not able to sleep. I want to get up and do it more. And, seeing you people here at 7:30 asking these questions, you're a different bunch of people and you'll definitely do it. I don't think it'll burn you out.
Katherine, if you'd like to add anything to that.
Yeah, thank you. I think as early career entrants, there is a lot of regulation actually about working too many hours, particularly in the legal industry. So in terms of working long hours, there is some regulation about that, but working hard, it's more about being responsive, but and the attitude, and I think Subash and Muthindra talked about that earlier, is really demonstrating that you really want to do the work, prioritising that, communicating with people in your organisation who have asked you to work on a particular thing, and saying, look, this is, how long it might take, and it's just really down to communication and the attitude that you take to it. So that will build your credibility with the people you're working with, and they will respect you for raising any issues about, if there's too much work going on for you. So I think particularly in the legal industry, there's more of a focus on this issue, and people don't want you to be in a situation where you are overwhelmed and burning out, and people will respect you bringing up those issues with them, because if they don't know about it, then they can't help you to find a solution. And that's what the people around you, particularly in senior roles, are there for, is to look out for their junior team and to find other ways of working if there's too much work on. They need to manage resources and bring in extra pairs of hands if they're really needed. So it's no good if you just quietly keep working and it's all too much. So I hope that helps with the question.
Let me add on to that from Katherine, Shruthi. I think what you need to have a balance, and the balance comes through prioritization. I'll give you an analogy as a student of how you could look at prioritization and what is important and what could be left aside to be addressed on another day or another time. So let's take an example. You know, you've got a number of balls and you're juggling those balls, and you're not a good juggler. So what happens is that if you're not a good juggler and you're trying to juggle those balls like this, few of the balls are going to fall down. What you need to look at and be very careful is that if the ball is made out of glass and you fail to catch the ball and the ball falls on the ground, the glass breaks. And that's your make or break situation. Similarly, if you are juggling a few balls which are made out of plastic or made out of rubber, they have the ability to rebound. So even if you drop the ball, after the bounce rebound, you're able to catch it back again and again start doing the juggling. So that's all about prioritization. So you need to look at what is important, what can wait, and it can wait for how long. At the same time, if I have to deliver something, what needs to be delivered accurately and effectively and efficiently so that it doesn't break. And that would really help you balance between what you're trying to do at work and what you're trying to do in personal life. Hope that helps.
That was a great analogy, Satya. I think that would have probably helped Mitch. Next, I'd like to invite Akshal to unmute himself and go for his question.
Yes. So, hello everyone. My name is Akshal. Thank you, speaker, for your time today and all the information you have provided. Very inspiring. So, my question is pretty generic and applies to all of the speakers. So, I just want to ask that what are the mistakes you have done through your career life, or what are the things which you could have done better? So, we can get to know about it and we won't repeat that in our life as well. So, what's your thought on that? Thank you.
Good question, Akshal. I will start with my learning is to have mentors in the beginning of my career. It's more of a trial and error method. You lose out time and effort. If you have a mentor, you can have them as a mentor for you for your growth and corporate life. It need not be a one person. It can be multiple mentors. Learn from others' mistakes, which is what you're doing excellent, which I did not do because I was trying to do my own way of method of understanding, learning. But of course, over a period of time, there were mentors for me also. But if you knowingly start adapting and your career growth, I think that will help you.
Definitely.
Maybe Satya, you want to add something to that? You're on mute, Satya. Satya, you're on mute.
Apologies. Am I audible now?
You're audible.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. Just to add on, I just second Subash's word in terms of you really need to have a mentor or a coach who helps you drive, motivate, and take you across the other side. The advantage of having a mentor is because you only got limited foresight, and your mentor or your coach has more experience and better, far-reaching oversight of a lot of things that you're not aware of, and that helps them guide them. The other thing which is very important is that how do you plan? And you need to really plan yourself. Some people do less planning and jump into execution, as a result of which they waste a lot of time. So you need to really think and absorb in terms of what you want to do, what those baby steps are, and what that roadmap looks like for you. What you want to achieve in the first 3 years, what do you want to achieve in the first 5 years, and what do you want to achieve in the next 10 years. If you have that roadmap and you work with your mentor and your coach, they should be able to guide you. The other thing I wanted to to suggest is that be bold, be courageous. Sometimes you'll do some things which your peers will laugh at. Don't be taken aback by that. They are on a different journey. You are on a different journey. I think Muthindra started off his opening note by talking about journeys, and everyone has different journeys. So you are on a different pathway. Just follow your pathway. Look at, and there's light at the end of the tunnel. Don't be misguided or detracted or discouraged by people who don't support you. If you have a lot of people who are discouraging you, look for promoters. Work in the vicinity and be friends with who are basically encouraging you, who are always promoting you, who are always looking at the brighter side of you.
Thank you so much, Satya, for that answer, and as well as Subash. There is another question from Tanmay Agarwal, and that is also directed towards Satya, but probably Satya and Muthindra, both of you can comment on that. So what he says that I'm currently pursuing international relations. I have done my bachelor's in commerce. what steps should I follow if I want to look for jobs in the banking sector like a risk analyst? Just to continue with this question, if you can also comment on this fact that during COVID-19, a lot of students feel a bit anxious, feel a bit nervous because they feel that there are less job opportunities for them. So just to highlight on this point on how can they create an opportunity in this time would be great, Satya.
Okay, so I think one of the things, and I'm a bit, I don't have the answer in terms of what the immigration laws are, but in terms of when I was a student 20 years ago, you had to be a PR to really get a job. I think that mindset is now changing. A few organizations are taking up people on temporary visas, or and I think the immigration laws are also suggesting that once you spend some time doing a specific degree, you get about 12 months to work in the industry. So you need to reach out to the different industry groups in terms of where you want to work. And the way to gain experience is, if I want to answer that question, banking sector and risk analyst. So what you need to really understand is what do you mean by risk? What do you mean by controls? And so when you're going for an interview, you just can't say I'm looking for a job as a risk analyst. So you need to do some prep work. What confines the role of a risk analyst? What are the qualities that you need? What are the technical skills that are required? Do you require a good skill in Excel? Do you require good analytical skills? Do you require skills in SaaS as a technology? Understanding the framework of risk. There's reputational risk, there's financial risk, there's customer risk. Anything that goes in from a banking perspective, especially in the last 12 months, you had the Royal Commission coming through. So banks are very, very considerate in terms of their compliance. Anything that they do has to be compliant. Anything that they have, they basically monitor from a data perspective, from a process perspective, from an execution perspective, needs to work around the boundaries of control and risk. So what I'm trying to basically paint the picture here is that whether it could be any job, whether it's banking, whether it's telco, you need to start reading about that industry sector, that vertical. So when you are in front of someone asking for a job, or if you're in someone for an interview, you've got some background knowledge about that industry, about that job that you're applying for. And that's why when I talked about networking and talking with peers and seniors and coaches and mentors, they help you advise what exactly is the role definition and what qualities and skill sets are required to do that, to perform that job.
Would you also like to comment, Muthindra, on the same question?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much. My answer would be, going by what Satya was saying, it is also equally important to understand, like, if your ideal role is a risk analyst position in a financial sector, that's actually a very niche market, right? Probably the way that I would go about that is, you will obviously encourage to apply for the role, but think about the competition. So when you go in there, if there is a role and there will be 20 others apply, how are you going to be at the front of the queue and not at the back of the queue, right? So read about it, understand, like Satya says. And the other thing is, if it is extremely competitive market and there will be a lot of other people with a lot of experience who are going for that role. If I were you, I will actually target a role that is slightly different, but get your foot in the door. Once you are in the banking industry sector, you can learn about what they do, their risks, especially giving, taking into consideration financial sector is extremely governed in Australia. So going in there for a different role, learn the ropes, and then internally you can jump into that role a bit later on once you learn a lot more about the financial sector than directly trying to get to that role. There might be an opportunity to get there directly, but don't get discouraged if you get rejected. Try to get into the sector in a different avenue and then work your way towards the ideal role. That would be my guidance.
Hope that answered your question, Tanmay. Next, we have a question from Arnab. The question is, how did you find the adaptation to working for a Japanese company in Japan? It's directly directed towards Subash.
Okay, some small correction. I'm not working for a Japanese company. It's a US-based company. I will change this question into a little more different. How do you adapt to a different culture of a country where, since I'm handling Japan as a market? It's a good question. Thank you, Arnab. See, it is very important to know the culture of the geography. It can be any place. Even in Australia, you don't call customers after 5 o'clock, right? But of course, in India, you pick up the call and you make a call. It's okay with them. So you need to know what is the local culture, which you can have a friend, partner who's a official partner who's working there. You can take some help from him to understand. And it's a very important thing if you're working in a different environment, different culture. First thing we do is to understand. I may even take a step down, not necessarily even the country, even if you have a different customer. What is his interest? You don't go and tell him an opponent football team which he's not happy about. So you prepare yourself for any discussion you have with any customers, culture, country. Even more, you need to know the culture. Korea has different culture, and Japan is definitely a different culture. We address them with Honda-san. You create that kind of an email. You understand that. So it's important you prepare. Adaptation is basically knowledge. If you have more and more knowledge about the geography, that means you need to prepare yourself before even you get into the particular geography. It applies not only for the country, even for your customers. Know them before you reach out to them. So I do a lot of research. Nowadays, you have LinkedIn, you've got a lot of social media. Go and see what is the customer's interest. If you can get more and more information, it's easy to have an icebreaker and start off the conversation. That really helps, actually. And the last part, I'm still working on multiple projects in Japan. Fundamentally, you address the pain point of the customer. They are very excited because you are helping them solve some day-to-day problem. They're spending a lot of money in doing a manual testing, and I'm going and telling him, your testing time is going to be reduced from 2 months to 2 weeks, and cost is going to reduce so much, and it's going to be less error. He said, I would like to see a demo. And so the culture and the product really helps to adapt to the success of your job. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Subash, for that answer. Hopefully, Arnab is now satisfied with that answer. I've got a question from my side. It can be directed to anybody, Subash or Satya. My question is that it's a very good time here when you are sitting at home in lockdown and you have very less things to do. So the best thing is to read some book or watch some meaningful movie. What will be your recommendations for anybody or any student who wants to go through some leadership books or journals that you might be reading and you would like to recommend to the students to read in their free time? Probably Satya and Subash, you can answer in order.
So I will recommend, I don't remember the author's name, but the title of the book is First 30 Days. You pick up a job, I think that will be really helpful for you. Go through that book's first 30 days, what are the things you have to do. And that's very important for you to start off any job, any new job you start off. I'll recommend that book. It can be used for any job changes, even keep it with yourself. Just go through it whenever you have some time. That's my recommendation.
What about you, Satya? I think his video
is frozen.
Paused. So maybe Muthindra, you can answer that question. Any other recommendations from your side?
There you go. I don't know whether you guys can see. The book is called Influence Without Authority.
Sorry.
Muthindra, keep going.
Yeah, that's fine. So actually, this is a brand new book, so I haven't even read it. So I don't know whether you can. So Influence Without Authority. So written by Alan Cohen and David Bradford. So sitting on my desk, something to read over the next couple of weeks.
Interesting. If Satya, you are back, maybe you can also answer that question. I think we lost you in between.
I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Can you hear me? Okay, great. So if you can see, this is the book that I've got. It's all about the magic of big thinking The whole idea is the true secret of success: how to earn more, lead fearlessly, and live a happier life. And I'll give you a real life example. So one of my team members in India had this idea, and I'm mentoring her through this process. And she came up with a great idea of, this is COVID time. So pre-COVID, I spent about 2.5 hours commuting. So she works in the Chennai office. So she spends about 2.5 hours every day commuting to work. And now because of COVID, so you've got about 2.5 hours every day for yourself, and how to utilize that. So she said, I had an idea of I could listen to music, I could do some exercise. She took the path of learning, and believe me, in 2 to 3 months time, when we had COVID, she had 40 certifications on different things, on leadership, on technical stuff, on communication. So as to your point, I keep bringing it back all the time. You always need to be a learner, and the only way you can learn is, and if you learn, the way I define learning is that the way you look at it, okay, I start my day to day, and I've got 365 days in a year. And every day, if I better myself by 1%, and that could be in any field, it's not only about being academic, it could be in personal life, it could be in professional life, it could be in sports. It's just, how can I make myself better by 1% in whatever I am doing? Even if I'm sweeping the floor, I'm basically doing the dishes, how can I do it better? How can I do it faster, and how can I do it simpler? And you have that mindset for every day. In a year's time, you'll be compoundedly 36% better of where you started off with. So invest in yourself, invest in learning, invest of doing things simpler, faster, better every day, in and out.
Thanks for that, Satya. Katherine, if you have any book recommendation for us.
Yes, thank you. Going off Satya's recommendation there, Atomic Habits by James Clear talks about what small things you can do every day to create a habit. Found that really helpful. Also Becoming by Michelle Obama, and Daring Greatly, Brené Brown. Anything Brené Brown. She's got a podcast. Listen up. It's really good.
Thanks, Katherine. We have another question from Anam. So Anam asks, I would like to know how to find a mentor. In the IT industry, I know I have to do the certifications to establish myself. I'm more interested to know how to find a mentor to learn work ethics and doing the work efficiently and satisfactorily. Muthindra, if you'd like to take this over.
Sure. So the first thing is, certification in IT industry is a bit of a myth, right? So, I was a project manager for many years before I actually got my certification. I always believed in, the theory is extremely good, right? But practicality is a lot more applicable in the real life. So that would be my advice. So yeah, anybody else?
Maybe Kumar, you want to add some points here about mentoring? Any plans on the Opportunities Australia side? Kumar, there?
Mentoring clients on Opportunities Australia side?
No, mentoring the students. The question is, how do we help the students, postgraduate students? How do we find a mentor? You are talking about the mentorship in the beginning. If you can say some plans about Opportunities Australia for them.
Sure. We have a team already, and besides that, we are also forming corporate partnerships with brands like Salesforce, Deloitte, etc. So there will be more corporate involvement happening soon. And if people are interested, they could register with us. And our team is growing as well. So that's all I can think of. Thank you.
Thanks, Kumar. Thanks, Muthindra. Thanks, Subash. Guys, if you have any more questions, we will be moving to the networking session soon, and we'd love for you to ask more questions there for our speakers. just to close out, thank you so much for everyone for asking so many interesting questions. It was really great to hear from you all. I believe learning is a journey and has no end to it. So we will be here again tomorrow to learn more about more valuable insights from the rest of our speakers. PGC has been incredible in making this happen with the most supportive president and vice president we've ever had. So to thank all our speakers, I would now like to invite PGC's Vice President, Diana Zhang, to speak a few words. Over to you, Diana.
Thank you, Shruthi, and thanks so much for the kind introduction. So on behalf of the Postgraduate Council, I want to express our sincere gratitude to Opportunities Australia and our special guests here tonight. So thank you, Katherine, thank you, Muthindra, Subash and Satya for your time and support in making tonight's event possible. I also want to thank ARC and Mitch for live streaming for us to all of our guests online, and also for their kind support throughout this whole process. And of course, to our wonderful hosts, Saurabh and Shruthi from the Postgraduate Council. So if you can join me in giving them a virtual applause, please do so now by clicking the clapping hands icon. To finish off, I'll quote Oprah Winfrey: "A mentor is someone who allows you to see the hope inside yourself." And I think it's safe to say that tonight we have all felt encouraged and empowered by our incredible mentors, and will certainly take on board their wisdom and experiences in life. But it's not over yet, because we have a wonderful networking session straight after this. So please do stick around on Zoom if you'd like to personally talk to our guests. And if you're hungry for more, as Shruthi was saying, or if you're watching online and wish you could have participated, the good news is that we have day 2 of Opportunities Australia Mentorship Conclave tomorrow night on Zoom at 6 p.m. We also have a number of events happening throughout this week as part of Postgraduate Week to help provide support and help you connect with your fellow postgrads, including a virtual webinar on legal advice, a workshop on how to use EndNote, and also a really exciting games and networking evening. So please do book your spots on Eventbrite. And with that, I'd like to thank everyone once again for tuning in tonight, and Postgrad Council looks forward to seeing you all very soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Diana. Thank you so much, Diana, for that message. I would also like to thank all our speakers from my side. Opportunities Australia again, Kumar, ARC UNSW, and obviously UNSW Postgraduate Council, and obviously our wonderful audience. So many people coming out today to participate in this event. We hope to see you tomorrow at 6 p.m. on the same, or rather a different Zoom link, which we have posted on our events page, which has also now been posted on the Zoom chat, or we will just post it in a while, with another set of exciting speakers, as Diana just pointed out. So we have the former or the famous Australian soccer player Craig Foster, founder of New Mind Consulting Juliana Oben, founder and director of Afghan Women on the Move Mariam Popal Zahid. I could see Mariam also in this meeting. And obviously the co-founder of CopTax, Sydney Kachwala. So I think this should be enough for you to be encouraged to come tomorrow for this event again. And now I would like to invite you to join the different breakout rooms, which will be created by Mitch from ARC. So each breakout room will be with one speaker, and you can choose whichever breakout room you want to join and interact with them, ask them any questions. And this will run for about half an hour, and that will be the last part of today's session. Thank you so much, everyone, and good night. Stay safe.